what's the biggest mistake you made?
I've made so many.
My guest today is founder of Blink Brow Bar, Vanita Parti.
I believe everything is possible. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Before Vanita, no one in London knew what threading was.
And they told me it was a 6-month waiting list.
Wow.
To get my brows threaded.
Now, countless women can't imagine their eyebrows without it.
We had women removed by security guards. This was the only place.
And today, she shares her story of how she built her brand from one chair in a department store to 15 stores across UK, New York, and Paris.
It's not about making money. It's more about making the most out of life.
What has been your biggest challenge?
I would never climb the career ladder if I work part-time. You do not tell people, are they going through the menopause at the age of 40 and their hair's very dry? When you look back, would you do this again? No, I'd never have a service.
What was the mistake you made there?
Overspending. Just do one thing really well, and it's brows. That's what we do well.
Welcome to Unboxed. I'm your host, Connie Nam, the founder of Astrid and Miyu. In these conversations, I speak to founders, investors, and creators who are all breaking boundaries in their space to discover the person behind the brand and what it took for them to build their empires. Hi, Vanita. How are you?
I'm good, Connie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's really exciting to be here. I have to say I'm a little envious. What a nice creative space.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. I've realized that there isn't a lot of story about you out there, so I'm really excited to have an exclusive-ish interview with you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I love chatting about what I've done, but you know how life just takes over.
Yeah.
I probably don't do as much as I should.
Tell me a little bit about yourself before BBB.
Gosh, I'm quite a creative soul. You know, it's funny. I never really thought I'd be running a business. I always thought I'd be doing my own thing in a creative way. Never really quite sure what. Yeah, I'm quite a daydreamer. I'm not always very focused in life, but I love beautiful things. I love talking to people, and I'm really ambitious. And I think it's not about making money. It's more about making the most out of life. I think I get bored very easily. So I'm always thinking about things that I should be doing, or things I want to learn about.
Yeah.
And I think I do more and more of that as I get older, actually. I just feel time is ticking by.
Making the most out of your life. I love that.
Yeah.
And were you working before starting?
I was.
Yeah.
So the job I had prior to setting up Blink was as a brand manager at British Airways. And I did that for about 6 years, which I loved. You know, it gave me a sort of structure to help me set up my business and to really understand what a brand is and how to appeal to customers and how you create the magic for your customer. So I used to work for Club World, which was business class, British Airways, and it was very much about how you give them a 360 experience. So every touch point, they feel the brand promise. And that was always to arrive, relaxed, refreshed, ready to do business. So everything we did had to revolve around that, from the comfort of the seat, to the washrooms, to the lounges, to the mailers that they got. And we were pivotal to that, British Airways.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just marketing. The typical marketing was all about the customer experience as well. It was,
very much so. And any department that was trying to do an initiation for Club World had to come through us, and we had to sign it off. So the guardians of the brand, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah. And where did the inspiration of Blink Brow Bar come from?
When I was at British Airways, I got pregnant and I realized that I would never climb the career ladder if I worked part-time. I knew that working full-time was going to be challenging with a child. I feel I always knew I was going to set up a business because I had a very entrepreneurial family.
What did they do?
My father was in fashion and my mother helped him, actually. But it was always very chaotic in our house. There were clothes everywhere. Sometimes we had money, sometimes we didn't. My father was always on the phone. We always had people over. It was really buzzy and I loved it. And I got to see, a lot of my parents are always around and we helped. We were all there folding clothes and listening to the trials and tribulations of a very unpredictable life. So I think in the back of my mind, I thought, take all your experience at British Airways. The time has now come. You've had a child. So I was trying to come up with ideas in my head. And I realized when I look back, I was doing it all the time, even as a child, trying to think about, I could make some money by selling. I was actually selling sandwiches when I was at university to officers because I was trying to make some money. I did come up with a couple of ideas. One was actually a dating site online for the Indian community. which I do wish I'd done sometimes.
Does that exist right now?
Now it exists. And I think the owner, it's actually called Shadi.com. And I think he's a billionaire. So maybe I missed my calling there. But hey. So I was trying to come up with ideas. And when I was at home with my daughter, I was a little bored. I don't think I was made for those early maternal years because I need people. And it was very boring, wheeling a baby who doesn't talk back to you around parks.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I really didn't enjoy the baby period.
No. And
I enjoy them right now. They're 5 and 6 and they're so funny.
But that is an adorable age. And they go to school, which is fantastic because you
Yes.
get a bit of time. But I did used to look out the window and long for, that time when I used to work up for Shareways. I would chat to my friends, we'd work, we'd go for a drink, and I missed it. And I just thought, okay, I can go back and work part-time, but it's kind of just biding, I'm just treading water. And because I'm quite ambitious, that would never have been good enough for me. So I had to climb up a career ladder or I had to do my own thing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to come up with an idea. And then an idea of threading came to me actually when I moved to central London and I couldn't get my eyebrows done. And I called around. There was one lady called Vishali that lots of people might know. She offered it in Marylebone, but it was very expensive. And they told me it was a 6-month waiting list. And I thought, wow, to get my brows threaded. I had grown up in Ealing, so I just used to travel back to Ealing every 2 weeks. And I took my friend to experience it because she loved my brows. And she said, this is amazing. I love it. And just seeing the look on her face made me realize that if I could take it from Ealing and bring it into central London.
And this is something that existed in your culture, in Indian culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
so
and
brought
most
that over.
Indian girls that I know either in India or that live here as second generation Indians, they've all threaded their eyebrows since they were teenagers.
Yeah. So there would be individuals in each area that would do this, but there was never a proper brand.
Yes. Well, there was never a proper brand. So you could get it done. It was, it wasn't done in a very trusted way in terms of hygiene. And the fact these girls have been trained, they were never paid very much. Where I used to go in Ealing was a particularly nice salon and I still know the owner very well. And she actually, I shared the idea with her and said, do you want to partner with me? Because I think we could take this to central London, make it really premium and introduce it to Londoners. At that time, it was Londoners. And she said, no, thank you. I've got my hands full with one salon, but come spend time here and see if you think it's something that you want to do. And so I did. And I was absolutely convinced, actually, that it would be a big hit. So I sort of trained not to do the threading because it's something that takes a long time, but actually just to understand what the customer's looking for and the protocol you need to follow. And then I went out and I just started talking to, first of all, I was looking for a site to do it in. And then I realized that trying to create a new brand takes time. And if you start paying for rent in a shop, how am I going to market myself? So perhaps if I thought about a new concept like nail bars, but did a brow bar and put it into department stores, that could be a really good way to market the brand. Doesn't cost much, and also establish yourself before you commit to the cost of bricks and mortar.
So how did you get started? This was in 2004.
2004.
How did you convince retailers to put threading?
Well, it was
when
really
they didn't
hard.
know what it was.
It was really difficult, and that's when you realise that cold calling kind of verging on begging is probably the most painful part of any entrepreneur's journey. And it really was that. I mean, I almost camped outside the Selfridges head office and the receptionist was very bored of seeing me because every morning I put my head around the corner and say, any response to the proposal that I've left with you? You couldn't really email proposals then. I mean, I guess you could, but hand delivery was the way you did things. So it seems like a long time ago. It was a long time ago. So, I did a very nice, colourful proposal.
I would think even now hand delivery is much more effective because people will get so many emails.
Yeah, it gets
every
lost.
Day. Yes.
I had put together a colourful proposal with one page of it was numbers. The rest was all pretty pictures about life is speeding up, women are busy, they're working, they're having children. They also need to get their brows done. And nail bars were really taking off, bring theatre to department stores. So I tried to tell them the story about how it was an ancient Indian practice and that women would love it. And it was funny, the response. So certain department stores didn't like the Indian bit because they felt that it would only appeal to other Indian women. and they thought it was too niche. And then some department stores just thought it needed a lot of space, and therefore it was a risk when they could give that space to a well-established beauty brand. Actually, it was my older sister who worked in Soho that said to me, there's one store you haven't tried that I think would be open to this, and that was Fenwick in Bond Street. And I didn't know much about Fenwick because I'd gone for the Selfridges, the Harvey Nichols and Harrods, and she said, no, try them because they are very good. They launch a lot of new brands, and I didn't know, but they actually launched Nails Inc. there. So I did. I sent my proposal to them, and literally within a week, I got a call from the buyer. And she said, we like your idea, and we like it because all the Vogue girls are next door at the Condé Nast office. They all get threaded at Vishali. And she is the sort of threading queen in London, the only threading queen in London.
Oh, wow. So you met a buyer who knew, like, who got you.
She got it. You realise it's just a meeting of minds. And she said, just come in next week and talk me through how you're going to make this work. And so I did. And I had this vision of a lovely brow bar with all my sort of glamorous therapists wandering around and products and mirrors. And she said, look, we can give you some space. It's a dead space. We can't do anything with it. It's in the lingerie department. You can put one chair there and a girl and get going. And so I took it. I was like, okay, that's fine. That'll do. And so that's exactly how we started. I had 3 months to find girls, train them.
So you didn't have any girls at this point. You just had a concept.
I had a concept.
I love that.
And I panicked. I really panicked because I just thought, where am I going to find these girls? Because are they going to be willing to travel from Southall or Wembley to come into central London? But also, I don't thread. How am I going to make sure that they're able to do a really top service? And also, it's hard for them because they had quite a relaxed life in the salons they worked in Wembley and Southall. They'd come and go. They probably got paid a couple of pounds an hour. Actually, I got my father's help. He came with me to Southall. We put little posters everywhere. I went into beauty salons and I was shamelessly poaching people, talking to them, pretending to get threaded. And then gradually I got a few girls that came and I interviewed them at my parents' place in Ealing, got them to thread my brows. And then once I'd sort of chosen a couple of girls that I thought would work well, I asked if the salon in Ealing, if she would mind vetting them, and she did. She was really kind. So I managed to find two girls, but they wanted to do split shifts. And that was it. It was me and the 2 girls.
Oh, wow. And they were willing to travel to central London?
They were willing to travel because obviously I paid more, always late, which drove me mad. And it's their use of language to begin with. They would say to women, you've got a moustache, you need to get rid of that, and things like that. And customers would say, God, your girls are
very direct.
Very direct. And of course, we're used to it. I don't know, in the Indian culture, we say it how it is.
Same in Asian culture.
I go
back home to Korea, they're like, oh, your hair is like a broomstick.
Yeah, I know. It's, they'll talk about your weight very openly. They'll talk about your hair problems. Yeah. And they think that's just fine. It's all out there in the open. You certainly can't be touchy or delicate. So that's something that we're still learning. And I still have to say to the girls, no, you do not tell people that, are they going through the menopause at the age of 40 and their hair's very dry. But, it's cultural. And we've had to fit an Indian culture into premium, very British department stores.
So how did the first couple of months or years go at Fenwick?
Well, the first couple of months were mental. I mean, it took off. The first 4 weeks were really slow and boring, and everyone was just looking at this empty chair. Then I realized, okay, I'm just going to get all the girls in Fenwick, all the sales assistants to sit in the chair and try it out, and other people will soon cotton on to the fact that, okay, it's a new service. So we did that, and then people would start stopping and looking. And as customers sat in the chair more and more, and their reactions were so dramatic, I mean, the therapists became celebrities overnight because women were just astonished at how different they looked and how transformational it was. And then people started saying, okay, I want some of that. Whatever you're doing to her. They would tell their friends. And then I also sent invitations out to the press. I worked with Fenwick. They gave me a long list of people to invite in for a free treatment. And we got amazing coverage, in the Telegraph, in Vogue. And soon people just poured in. It was a pouring in. I was on reception.
That's incredible.
There were queues. We had women removed by security guards because they wanted to get their brows threaded. And there was nowhere else to do it. I think that's what we have to remember. This was the only place, or somewhere in Marylebone where there was waiting lists.
Is there more competition now?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so everyone's like, competing.
Now it's pretty commonplace.
Because there's high awareness around the service now.
Yes.
Like everyone knows what it is.
Yes. Lots of women still haven't tried it. They're still quite daunted by it. But now yeah, it was a novelty factor
Yeah,
then.
yeah. It really reminds me of when we first started doing piercing, because the traditional like piercing studios are quite, I mean, like intimidating, right?
Yes.
The tattoo studios. So we tried to bring in more accessible, more friendly piercing services to our stores. And we just had queues and queues when we
Yeah.
launched piercing.
And it's about finding a gap,
Yes.
isn't it?
And educating people on
Yeah, and how it can be done better. And I think piercing for young girls, I mean, I know for all my children, you want to find somewhere that you really trust.
Yeah, and safe and clean and
Yeah.
like all of these things.
So it's a fantastic idea. And I know I feel a lot safer when my daughter goes to one of your stores than, at that, I remember my older daughter, who's now 23, it was harder to find somewhere then.
How did you grow BBB from there?
So we started in Fenwick with one chair, and then Fenwick, we couldn't manage the demand. So Fenwick gave us space for another chair, and then gradually they moved us into the beauty hall. So we went,
that's incredible,
straddling lingerie.
Yeah. How long after the launch?
It was 3 months that we were given another second chair, and then we were properly moved into the beauty hall within 6 months.
Oh, that's incredible. And the clientele weren't just Indian women.
No,
these were like diverse
it
women.
was
the fashion editors and all the cool people.
Yes. People that make up sort of London W1 really. You had the lady that worked at Sotheby's, you had the investment banker in Berkeley Square, the person that worked at Condé Nast. There were literally, it was a real mix, a London mix of busy, high-flying women that were very discerning about beauty and wanted to give it a go. But then we started getting women that were travelling in from Tunbridge Wells.
Wow, just for the service.
Because they... a journalist in the Telegraph had mentioned it, and they were like, okay, I want to have a go. And then we got the department stores that had turned me down started calling and saying, okay, you've proved the concept. Now I'm interested. And I thought, okay. So Harvey Nichols came in to see me, and then Selfridges called, and they were all interested.
Wow. And now you have locations in like all over London. You have Paris and New York as well.
We do.
How did that come about? When did you start international expansion?
So New York happened actually a long time ago in 2011, and it was amazing because we opened in Henry Bendel, which is a boutique store in New York. And for those that know, it was famous for accessories.
Such a lovely store.
It's beautiful, really boutique. And we thought it was a really nice place to house Blink. So I went over to New York and persuaded them to give us a go. And they were great. And then sadly they closed down. So we moved over to Saks. It was brilliant, actually. We weren't in the beauty hall at all. We were up on the 5th floor in clothing, and the New Yorkers loved us. And they're like Londoners, they'll give anything a go.
Yeah.
And that's what I do love about both the cities.
How did you manage? Did you send people out there, or did you hire completely locally?
So we hired locally. We went to, again, the sort of outskirts of New York to find, where the Indian communities are, Jackson Heights, or places where we thought we'd find women that could thread, that have been threading for a long time. It was almost like starting your business again. So that's what we did. We trawled the streets. I had more of a team then to help me, which was amazing, put flyers out and looked at local newspapers in that area. We hired someone to do our PR in New York, which was really helpful. She was an amazing woman, Jennifer Ruff. We had a database in the UK of our customers that lived in New York, and we also got their help to spread the word. We told them all about it, and it was organic. But we did do a big press event. We invited journalists in. Then it was the best way to launch a brand.
Yeah,
if you have journalists talking about it, it's really worth the spend.
I guess marketing has shifted so much, because even when I launched Astrid and Miyu in 2012, press was the avenue, the channel to go to, but now there's influencers, there's social media channel. How have you adapted during those times?
Yeah, I find it mind-boggling, actually. It was so much easier when I started the business, because it was clear that, you want these 10 beauty directors to come to your service and talk about it, and you woo them and you love them. And we did that, and we're still in touch with all those beauty directors. They still use us, and they're all incredible. And now it's, where do you put your money, actually? Where do you put your marketing budget? And I'm not sure anyone has the answer, and different things work for different brands. So I think we have a community. So it's very much about emails and SEO and events. We're probably not as big on TikTok. We've come to that quite late, and we're all getting our heads around that and trying to make that work for us.
I would think your brand would do really well on TikTok.
Yes,
because it's an experience.
It would. And I think that's when it really helps to get younger people in that really understand it. And I feel a bit of a dinosaur sometimes, but I love the fact I'm always learning.
Yeah, everything's changing so quickly.
It's changing really quickly. And I think, micro influencers are great for our brand, because a lot of people come in and love the services anyway and talk about it. So that's how we do it, actually. We build out our community through our services, which you probably do as well, through They come in,
Yeah, I think our model is quite similar because we have products and we have services. Now you have a huge range of products. When did you start developing products?
We started quite early because I hadn't planned to do products, but customers just kept saying, okay, I'm going home now. How do I darken them? How do I tame them? And so we kind of worked with our customers to find things that they were asking for. And then they didn't feel that there was a reflection of the different shades that they were. So to find maybe darker colors for Asian women, but also to find colors that really suited pale brows. Or it's hard to imagine, but then those big brands didn't really cater for a variety of brow products. So we started with simple things like a pencil that didn't smudge. It was waxy. It came in 5 or 6 colors, but with a spoolie so you could brush them afterwards. The big thing was the skinny brows that everybody was suffering from and they wanted help with. So, I created a brow oil that had rosemary in it to help grow them, look after them, nourish them. So it was just talking to our customers, and we developed our products organically. We've kept going. And it's now become a huge category in beauty.
Yeah. And what percentage of your revenues or like business is from product sales and what percentage from service
It's around
sales?
20%.
Yeah.
And that for us is something that we really want to grow.
Yeah. So service is still 80%.
It is.
And how many locations do you have, right?
We now have 20.
Oh, wow.
We used to have 30 pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And we closed a lot down because, well, it was such a whirlwind of a
So
time.
are they all over the UK as well as Paris and New York?
Yes, they are all over the UK. So we
Yeah.
have presence in Manchester. We had a lot more. So we were up in Newcastle and we were down in Southampton and Liverpool.
All around department stores, or do you have standalones?
So now we have more standalones. And it's really interesting how the models change because the department stores were hugely successful for us when we started because there's no risk. And also they have the footfall. So to grow your brand is easier. But now that we have a brand and everyone recognizes us, having our own stores, for me, is definitely the direction we want to go in.
Yeah, I think that's the best, owning your own customers,
Yes.
right? And how do you think about brand building and marketing right now, aside from the traditional press?
For us, I think it really is, I think community is really important. So we do a lot of events.
Yeah.
Communities like brides, for example, who want to come in and get their brows done. And we've got all these lovely shops where they can dwell, spend time, have consultations. So we're just trying to be a little bit more mindful about all the different groups and tribes of women that we can invite in that want to get things done for different occasions. Even teenagers, from women that are going through menopause. And it's all about educating and telling them, there's still so much we want to share about brows and how to care for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, and those communities we build up through Instagram. I mean, Instagram is really successful for us.
Yeah, Instagram's useful.
Yeah.
I think TikTok would be really good.
I know.
Yeah.
We're on it, I think.
Because we're seeing a lot of traction. I mean, like Instagram is our biggest platform as well, but we're seeing a lot of traction from TikTok.
Yes. And I think it's just knowing sometimes things just resonate and work.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit of trial and error sometimes because we're always amazed by the things that people love. And I think they say that about TikTok. We'll put things on that we think, oh, this is really interesting, a nice before and after. Yeah, whatever. And then suddenly we'll put something on, which is, honestly, I look at it, it's a split second of, it could be a man crying because his brows are so amazing or something, and it goes viral. And you're like,
sometimes
what?
it's really random, right?
It's so random.
Yeah. How did Paris come about?
So Paris was quite interesting because we went to talk to Bon Marché about the fact we really wanted to be in their store. And how could we make it happen? And it's hard in Paris because of employment laws. To try and set up in another country is difficult because you've got to deal with the legislation, employment laws, etc. They said, actually, we have someone that runs a nail business in Paris that might be happy to do a partnership with you, and they can run your brow bar here if you train the girls. And so we met a few times with a great guy called Christian who said, yeah, I'm really happy to do this. And they were premium. We love their nail offering. It's called Cure Bazaar. And so it's been a great partnership where that's how it's done. So we train everybody, but he runs it on a daily basis. So it's quite nice. It's what I probably describe as a joint venture.
Yeah. So it's still in the Bon Marché?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Do they do the marketing as well then? They take everything,
Yes.
you just train their stuff and they take care of everything.
And we do check-ins and make sure that we do refresher training. The most important thing is that the service is absolutely where it should be, and also that our brand is expressed in the correct way. So we go, we do visits and checks. And
are you thinking about other regions in the world?
always, as an entrepreneur, do we ever stop? No. I mean, I would really love to be in the Middle East. We have a big Middle Eastern customer that comes
I
over. They
can
come
imagine.
over and they love the brand. So UAE would be fantastic. And I'd like to really grow in New York and other big cities in the States, Florida, maybe LA.
Yeah.
But that might come maybe with the next growth phase.
Yeah. And how have you funded the business so far? Is it self-funded? Like, do you have
Well,
investors?
for my sins, it's self-funded. So it's been really organic.
I mean, that's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the best, but it's slow.
You have complete freedom and autonomy.
It's a question I ask myself every day. Should I have got investment earlier? And because it gets harder as you go along because you become more precious about your business. So I've always had complete freedom, which I love, but I do feel it's been a very organic journey. It started very, very fast, but it's also quite painful when it's self-funded in a way.
Yes. You just have a different risk profile, right? Because this
Yes.
is like your whole asset and your life.
Yeah, you have to constantly watch your pennies. You know, you never have that moment of having that lovely, gorgeous big creative space like you have here, Connie. Do you? Because I do you have funding or are you?
So I bootstrapped for the first 3 years. So I had a flat in Hong Kong, so I sold that to fund the business.
Wow.
And then 3 years in, I wanted to open a store in St. Christopher's Place. So I raised angel money, and then in 2019 we had a family office that bought out our angels, and some of our angel investors are still investors.
Well, that sounds like a really good journey actually, with the right stepping stones.
Yes.
So no, I haven't followed that, but you know, never say never, because I think for that big growth, you know, global growth, that we may have to do that, and it's something that we're definitely
I guess it's a balance, isn't it?
It is a balance, and you know, you hear so many stories where it's worked and you find a partner that really gets your vision, and founders have been really happy, but then you also get stories where they have destroyed the brand. So I think there needs to be a connection.
I mean, there are some great investors out there as well that get brands, and you're quite established, so I'd imagine you get a lot of traction.
Yes, and it's definitely something that we're thinking about.
Oh, exciting. So what's next for you and the brand?
So I'm loving the product side, and I just feel we've got so much educating to do. So women still don't really incorporate brows into their beauty routine as fully as they should. So it is about skincare for your brows, making sure that you take care of them, just like your hair. And I'm enjoying creating products around that and helping to, and really trying to tell that story, but also to try and simplify it for people. Like, you know, if you had 3 things in your bag, what would it be? You know, it would be an oil, a great pencil, and a gel probably. So for products, we really want to grow that in an uncomplicated way. And also brow boutiques is what we call them. So we have come out of department stores, and we are opening up a lot of boutiques where women can come, dwell. You get your brows done, you might want your lashes done, you might want a head massage or an eye soother, which are sort of Ayurvedic treatments we're introducing, microblading. So all sorts of things. So it's a little brow and lash haven.
Oh, I love that.
Just like your stores where you can get a piercing, you can choose some earrings, but it's really focused on one thing. But you know, we want community in there. So bring your daughter, bring your dog, bring your babies and hang out. And, you know, and I think our store in Notting Hill is really about that. And we're trying to replicate that.
Oh, I need to go have a visit.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're neighbors there, aren't we?
Oh, good. Yeah, you should definitely. We are neighbors. I've often pop into your store there.
And what has been your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is probably pipeline of staff for us, because it requires an expertise, and we never compromise that, and we can't, you know.
It's the same for us with our piercers and our jewelers.
Yes, you know, sometimes when people say, when you look back, would you do this again? And I always say, no, I'd never have a service. I would just have products, because there's no emotions that you have to deal with. You can just put them on shelves, but at the same time, so many wonderful things come out of the service, and the community of girls that work for Blink, that some of them have been there since we opened, you know.
Oh, I love that. So
and it is lovely.
For 20 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And they're still with us. And, you know, we have a bit of a family feel, but it is challenging. It's challenging to make sure that everyone follows that spec. We train them, and then we ask them to give this, you know, that gold standard service to every single customer. And sometimes the ball is dropped.
Yes.
And we can't always control that. If the therapist had a bad day, or, you know, it could be anything. So that's probably the biggest challenge, the consistency as you scale up.
How do you make sure that you maintain that consistency? How do you do that? Do you put a lot of processes in? Is there a lot of
Yeah, it's
training?
processes, it's training, it's making sure and really trying to simplify things, I think. So just have 5-step process of this is what we're promising our customer when they walk in the door. This is what you need to deliver. You know, it's 5 things where you have a consultation, someone sits in the chair, you talk through their brows with them, you map the brows. So the communication is there exactly what they want. You shape the brows, then you give them a massage, and then you give them the aftercare service. So there's points that they're boxes that you have to tick every time. We do mystery shopping as well to make sure that everybody adheres to it. And then we just do refreshers. We get all the girls in and just make sure that they are doing everything as they should be, but also reinvigorating them in a way. Because threading day in, day out, you know, we need to keep that excitement and the energy.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The love.
And what's the biggest mistake you made?
Oh God, I've made so many. I mean, so many.
That's a good thing. That
Yeah,
means you're
well,
moving.
it is. I think, you know, I think it's trying to do too much all of the time. Maybe not picking the best options sometimes. So, you know, examples are, well, people come to you with ideas and you start thinking, and you start getting distracted. So why don't we do nails? Oh, yeah, sure. Why don't you do waxing? Why don't you open up a spa? And you want to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think this is the problem with entrepreneurs. And sometimes I don't have a chairperson yet, but I think I need one. I sometimes need someone to just say no. I have an amazing MD, and I actually asked her the question yesterday. I said, you know, what do you, if they sort of say to me, what would I do better? She just looked at me and went, focus. And so I think for me, it's about not trying to do everything all the time. And I've stopped trying to do that and just do one thing really well. And it's brows. That's what we do well.
Yeah. That focus is so important.
I think it is because you have limited funds, and I have wasted so much money because Selfridges have said, I think you should do a nail bar. So we're giving you the opportunity. We won't go to another nail specialist. So how can you train someone to do nails brilliantly and also train them to do brows brilliantly?
Yeah, they're completely different things.
They are, and we're not equipped. So we did it. We did a fine job, and we do nails on a smaller scale in some of our boutiques, but that is not what people come to us for. So do what you do best.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And you said you have an MD. So how do you split your role? What's your focus and what's your MD's focus?
Gosh, well, she's really good, I think, at taking all my jumbled ideas and putting it into a plan and then working with the team to deliver it. So I offload almost every day and say, oh, wouldn't this be great? Wouldn't that'd be great? And instead of her reacting, I think she's learned to say, okay, I'm going to entertain Vanita and I'm just going to go, And then she kind of talks to the team and says, okay, we're doing this and we're doing that. We don't think this is a great idea.
Yeah, so she's filtering everything.
Yeah. And she kind of takes all of my ramblings and she turns it into something that makes sense for the team.
Yeah.
And she ensures they've got their KPIs, they understand what they need to deliver, and that they're meeting their targets and that we are meeting our targets as a business.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So that is incredible because I'm not a very structured person and it's made me realize how beneficial it is to
When did you decide to hire an MD?
I used to work with my sister and we had a really lovely ramshackled approach to building Blink and it did really well and it was crazy and fun and so many people look back and go, oh, those were the good old days. But actually they were crazy days. And I think we both realized, and my sister had another career in her that she wanted to go off and do. I think we both realized that we needed someone to put some structure in place because things were collapsing and things were growing at the same time.
And at what point was this? How many stores? How many staff?
So I think it's almost when we were doing very, very well. It was around 2015. We had 30 brow bars. So we're just opening. Getting staff in, some were leaving, customers were left, you know, they had an appointment, but no therapist would turn up. And there was a lot of it was juggling all the time. Yeah. We had products, you know, we got Sephora on the phone and they wanted to put our products in all their stores, but of course our delivery didn't meet the deadline and they said sorry and closed that opportunity. So we were it was all happening too fast and we couldn't deliver. And so we started actively looking for an MD. We went through a couple of MDs that were not right for our business. and you realize that's a partnership, a little bit like an investor.
Yeah. What was the mistake you made there?
Overspending. So the mistake is you get people in that come from a very corporate background.
Okay, and they want huge budgets.
They want huge budgets. They're very good at running their P&L in a department, but there's always a safety net. You know, it's every penny counts. And if you're going to spend this penny, it needs to have an impact. And I think that's hard. So what they always want to do is grow a team. So they're used to that. So they'll say, okay, we need to have X number of salespeople out there. And so I built up the head office and I spent all this money thinking that if you build a head office up, that the business will grow. Yeah. But the two don't always equate.
Yeah, they need to go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a fine balance because sometimes like we're too late to growing the head office team as the business grows. And then like now we're hiring ahead, but then like it doesn't seem to be enough. It's always a fine balance.
It is a balance. Yeah. And I remember talking to the founders of Benefit in the UK. I happened to meet them. And they said, honestly, the baby has to be screaming before you get the nanny to come in and look after it. So I thought that was quite good. It is hard. And even now it's hard because we keep saying, look, okay, let's get someone to help with the product. But actually, first of all, we need to get some really big orders. Which comes first?
Yes. And another thing I learned is like, obviously, like you need to have the revenue first, but all departments need to grow together.
Yes.
Because there was a period when like marketing was very strong, but product wasn't as strong. Like, and vice versa. Yeah. And I think all areas need to grow together.
It's 360 for the customer. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you can deliver in all aspects. Yeah. And also the game changers in terms of revenues. The thing that is also is real indulgence for me is that I love our boutiques and I will always overspend on making them look beautiful. The truth is, our customers don't really mind that much because they will sit almost anywhere to get their brows done as long as... You know what? The most important thing for them is that the therapists can give them beautiful brows. Yeah. Hygiene's really important. The fact that you don't take out a brow hair where you shouldn't is crucial. And they will go... It always amazes me when I talk to customers. They will choose the brow bar because they know they're going to get the service that they want. Sometimes it's a risk for them. They say, oh, shall I go to that store? But I know that this therapist always delivers. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. But I still want to create that environment for our customers. And it's a question I ask myself, if I was more economical with that, would it make a difference to the business? I'm not sure it would.
I mean, like from my experience in our stores, whenever we do refits, we do have that uplift in sales. So I do think the look and feel of the store is important, but maybe like for pure services, it doesn't matter.
Well, you know, I think it is in terms of people recognize your brand, their expectations. It should always smell a certain way. You should feel a certain way when you walk through the door. I think that's all really important. I think for those busy women that are running around, like when we started the business, you know, we'd have one chair in the middle of lingerie. Yeah. They were like, do what you need to do.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the charm, I think, right? Yes. Like it was a discovery back then.
It was. Yeah. And now there are obviously expectations and certain, you know, brand standards that we have to fill, and I love fulfilling. But, you know, we're still squished in the corner of Peter Jones, and that is probably one of our busiest brow bars. So it's interesting questions.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And how do you think about competition? Because obviously when you started in 2004, you were the only recognized brand.
Yeah, I'm not very good with competition. I'm very emotional about it.
Me too.
I don't particularly like my competition, but I do remember when a competitor brow bar set up a year after we had opened in Fenwick, and the lady that went to run it had worked for me. So I can't describe how I felt. It was, you know, honestly, I was so angry.
For us founders, it's so personal.
It's really personal. I felt it was true betrayal. And I remember the buyer at Fenwick, Jill Streeter, said to me, it's the best form of flattery and it will keep you on your toes. I didn't believe her at the time, but without competition, we could become a little, you know, complacent. So I think it is important to see what's out there and always make sure we're bigger and better. So it's probably no bad thing, but yeah.
Still annoying.
Yeah, it's still annoying.
Is there something you've had to let go to thrive?
I think it's going back to wanting to do everything. And also I think as the business has grown, it's to sometimes let the team run with things that I'm not always comfortable with, because I'll think, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna let you do it because the team really believes in that it's the right thing. And sometimes I'm, you know, really pleasantly surprised. And I think, yeah, Sometimes you need to get out. I need to get out of the way. I think I muddy things a little bit because I have a very clear idea of what they're doing, and then I'll come along and go, oh, but should we be doing this and should we be doing that? And they'll go, oh, you know. And I think I'm learning to just say, okay, guys, you've got this. I'm going to let you do it.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So important to trust your team and
I think so,
let them have
yeah.
autonomy.
And obviously things go wrong sometimes. And then you go, oh, God damn it. You know, why do...
Yeah. But it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
And also I think it gives them the freedom to thrive. So your business thrives and they thrive. So
yeah, absolutely.
And also gives me more time. It's nice. We had a beautiful new shop opening that's just opened in Mottcombe Street in Knightsbridge. I just turned up, honestly, and I just thought, great team. It looks beautiful.
That's incredible.
We had an amazing launch.
A great feeling, isn't it?
It is a great feeling.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself in the early years?
It's going to be a long journey. But you've got to really love it. Really love it.
It does take a long time to build a brand, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you have to be 100% dedicated to your cause and your message. And you can't just think, yeah, that was a nice idea. So what, that hasn't worked. You know, you've got to push and push and push every day. And I think you only do that if you truly care. And I realize the difference between entrepreneurs and people that might have an idea but don't make it happen is they will jump through any hoop, literally, to make it work. And I think that's the difference between an entrepreneur. And sometimes I'll be talking to team members and they're like, oh, that person said no, or we can't do that. I believe everything is possible. So when someone says no, I think, right, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I think you really have to be in it. You have to know what you're getting yourself into, but be excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's one advice you'd give an early stage founder?
Making sure that whatever you're proposing to invest your life into is going to be something that's needed. So really find the gap. And I don't think you have to reinvent something, but I do think you need to invent a new story around it. You don't want to be pushing something uphill. I think that you need to think this is needed, be able to express why it's needed. Especially if you're looking for investment, you need to be doing something bigger and better than anyone else is. So I always say to people when they come up with an idea, I'm like, well, you know, what is your USP? You need to be able to tell me that in one sentence. When they struggle, I worry.
Yeah.
So I would say just make sure you have that. I think once you do, then you need to be able to see it through. So you need that technical know-how of the building blocks to building it. So
yeah, that's so true. And such good advice. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vanita. That was so inspiring.
Oh, it's great chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow me at Connie Nam, Astrid and Miyu at Astrid and Miyu, and the Unboxed Instagram page at unboxed_founder confidential. See you next week.